Hey everyone, I am Claire, and I am going to share with you my testimony today, my salvation testimony, and all that God's done with me. I'm going to start at the beginning, all right? When I was 4 years old, we started going to church. That's what I remember, 4 years old. We're going to a little church in Blaisdell. Went to church, had a crush on the pastor's son. I remember when I saw him when I was a teenager and he was with his girlfriend or his wife. I can't remember what it was. I was so embarrassed I didn't even want to look at him because I'm like, does he remember me? I liked him when I was 4. So anyway, through the years, God brought us to different churches, and but ever since 4, my family's been in church. At age 7, at summer camp, it was a church camp. I don't think adults went other than with the kids because my parents didn't go. My dad was still alive. It was the summer before my father passed away. I was in the cabin and I was talking, I don't know if I was alone, I can't remember all the details, but I remember the counselor was there and I was like, what are you talking about being saved? What's that? So she talked about heaven and all that stuff, and I accepted Jesus as my Savior. And when I was like so excited to tell my parents about it, that I think this was 1980, yeah, the summer of 1980. And I made them guess. I look back and I'm like, you ever look back at things that you did as a child and you say, that was so dumb. You know, why did you do that? So I was telling my parents, I said, guess what I did while we were camping? Guess, I'm going to make you guess, you know? And so I don't think they guessed, so I ended up telling them. And I didn't get baptized until I was 12 for some reason. I have no idea why it took me so long. I have no clue. No idea. At 7, I believe we were going to a church that had a baptistry and all that stuff. I don't know. Maybe we were still so new that, you know, plus my father had passed away months later that probably got forgotten. Anyway, so the Lord kept us in church, even through my father's death, brought a new man into my mom's life who wasn't saved, who eventually got saved. And he passed away last year in October. And I was able to fly back to New York. This is the first time I ever flew back to New York. The only time I've ever been back, any of us have been back. It was the weirdest thing. It was the weirdest thing. That's a whole nother video. Just felt so awkward, you know? But I learned a lot at my father's funeral. I really did. About me and my family. Not my family here, but my family back in New York. I learned a lot. He opened my eyes to a lot of things. So, let's see. When I was 13, my father, my stepfather, being saved, it's a major event that you don't realize how major an event it is until you look back at all the events in your life. And if he had never got saved, if Paul had never got saved, so I was 9 when they got married, so I never called him Dad. We all called him by his first name, Paul. And so if he had never gotten salvation, you know, and this man was like, he was against everything biblical. It was amazing. It was all science-based stuff. And he's such a turnaround. You know, you hear about repentance and you get that turnaround. That was Paul. That was him. That was him. So if he had never had that, I don't know what would have happened later on in my life. You know, I know God's in control. He still would have kept us in church, all this stuff. You know, my mom kept going to church even after she married him. And they got married in Baptist church, all that. But him getting saved was a huge influence in our lives because the places he took, the places we went, you know, we went to go see preachers that I never remember going to see. We went to conferences, you know, that were local. Whenever, you know, Jack Hyles came around, we went to go preach, and then we started going to pastor school, you know, for that week. And it was amazing. And being the youngest of the 4 kids, I was going with them, and they let me take off the week off of school, and we went to private Christian school. And so, you know, from I think 7th grade on up. So I think that was the first year also that we went. No, maybe it was 8th grade that we first started going. It doesn't really matter. But I was 13, and the Thursday night of pastor school was always the big push, the big preaching about giving your life over to Christ. And that year I gave my life to Christ to do whatever he wanted me to do. And as an immature 13-year-old who was like into like, I was not I was not a pretty girl. I was not, you know, I mean, like I dress all frilly, like that sort of pretty girl type of thing, you know, like I wasn't a tomboy. I wasn't into sports, but I liked watching sports. Okay, so you might think I was a tomboy because I enjoyed watching sports. You know, watched football, I watched hockey, we watched baseball. I wore the Converse Nike, or not the Converse Nikes, the Converse, right? You know, the high top Sneakers, and I always wanted my sneakers to be in the sports colors of my teams and all that sort of stuff. So I went to the games, all that sort of thing. But I didn't play sports. I went to a Christian school, there was 20 of us there. There was no sports. So at 13, I surrendered to Christ, okay? And then it wasn't until years later that I was like, oh, wait a minute, I should go to Bible college, So the church we were going to at the time, I just automatically said, oh, we'll my parents were like, we'll send you to the Bible college that the pastor went to, always saying good things about it. So I went. That's one of those mistakes that you make in your life that you look back and say, God did that for a reason because you learned so much. I always call it my expensive mistake. It really was. My Camaro was the other expensive mistake when I was a young kid too. I should not have bought a Camaro. Why did my parents talk me about buying a Camaro? Who knows? It was a fun car. It was awesome. It was an old one. It wasn't a newer one. I bought it when I was 18 and I should have got a more sensible car. I really should have. I have no idea why I bought a Camaro. Why did I buy it? Mom, why did I get a Camaro? Do you know why? I don't remember why. It was just because it was an awesome car, right? So I went to that college for one semester, and then everyone's thinking I was going to go home, and I didn't go back. And I didn't know how to tell everybody I wasn't going back, so I made them think that I was going back. And then I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. And because it was the wrong college, because I was a bit embarrassed that I made that mistake, But the Lord opened so much to me while I was there. I matured. I realized what a bad student I was, that I wasn't prepared for college. Mentally, being on my own. When you're the youngest child of 4 and you're the one who hangs around your parents all the time, it's like I was immature, but I don't think I was immature to the point. I just needed to learn on my own some things. And going to school that one semester, I learned a lot on my own, a lot of things. So I waited a year, and then Hyles Anderson College kept calling me. See, this is another thing about me. I'm not going to say I went to a Bible college. I go to a church. Y'all know what church I go to. Y'all know what religion I use. Y'all know what kind of Bible I use. Y'all know what I believe. And I will always share that. I'm not going to tiptoe around it. So I signed up. I remember my senior year that they always ask, for seniors and juniors to say, hey, can we, to call you, give you information. So my sister had her 3rd baby, and I was like, oh, I don't want to miss him being born, so I'll go in the spring semester. Is that a lame excuse or what? I have no idea. Like another lame excuse. Like, why did I say that? So here I am. I just turned 20. So I went to Hyles Anderson in January of what did I just say? I graduated from high school in 93. Didn't go anywhere in 92, so it was 93. Did I get my years wrong? I don't know what I just said, but it was 1993, January, that I went, okay? And I'm so glad that God finally brought me to the right place. I went to school there. I grew there. My first semester was all a lesson. Some friends that I had there, I still have as friends. If we were to meet face to face, they all live all over the country and the world. If we were to meet face to face, we would still be friends. We would still talk as if we just, it was the next day, like where we left off. That's how it would be. And that those are friends. They're all doing their own thing, living their lives, raising their families, doing their thing, working their jobs and their ministries. But I know that we've all grown and changed through the years as well too, but I think that we still have that friendship there, that we would still talk as if, but just mature, almost, in our 40s women. So I went to school there. I met my husband there, blind dates, had some friends. We each had a roommate that started dating. His roommate lived off campus, I believed, at the time, but it was an old roommate they were still friends with. Set us up, went on dates, got engaged, fell in love, all that good stuff. Got married. So, and I remember when I went there, I made a joke saying, watch God send me somebody from California to marry. And lo and behold, what did he do? He sends me from somebody from California to marry. So, as I was at school there, I grew a lot. Friends, knowledge, spiritualness, ministry, you know, because we're on the bus routes all weekend, door knocking all weekend, lots of training. A lot of the teachers I still love and respect. And so I graduated in 99 while I was married. Moved to California for 2 years because my husband thought that God wanted him to go to a college out here that had just started. And it turns out that it was not going to be affordable for us. And had Carter while we were out here. He was born 2000. So we moved back to New York because there, at this point in time, little Bible colleges were popping up all over the country that churches were making, you know, for their church members who couldn't go away to go off to Bible college. And so one of the ones that I had gone to back in New York had done so. So my husband was like, yeah, you know, we're going to do this. We prayed about it, talked to the pastor. They didn't really want us to go, but we could not survive here in California anymore. We needed to get away from California. It was just, it was a financial strain on us here back in 2000. So we moved cross country again and moved into our apartment. The weekend we were moving into apartment is when my husband's younger brother died of cancer. And so we moved, he flew back, and that was also, he flew back, I don't know, that Sunday or Monday, and like the next day was 9/11, September 11th, and all that happened, and Carter was 9 months old. So we lived in New York for till 2015, so 14 years ish, and it was a financial struggle. We were out of God's will as to where he wanted us to be after a while. Okay, God sent us there. He wanted us there. He took care of us while we were there. He got his schooling while I was there. But after he was done, God wanted my husband to go back to California and start a church. And I did not want to go. I refused to go. I kept telling him no. I told my husband no, told God no, told the kids no. Kids were like, they were young. They didn't get the whole thing, you know. But years went by, and it was always, you know, God wants me to do this. Well, you know, good luck, you know. I was very nasty and mean when it came to it. I was not a supportive wife when it came to what God called my husband to do. And originally God had not called my husband to do that. It was while we were in New York that God called my husband to be a pastor in California. So, long story short, in 2015, I was reading a book, and my husband took a trip out here. It was right after his Uncle Bob died, and he took a trip out here with our pastor at the time. They got free miles or something, or miles to get a free ticket, so they flew him out here. And pastor talked with him and said, James, we can make it happen. You know, this is all the things that our church can do for you and that I will do for you. And basically it was God saying, now's the time. And at the same time that God was doing that, God was working on me. I was reading a book by Elizabeth Elliot, and I was amazed about how they left it back in the 50s. You know, they didn't have email. They didn't have Skype. They didn't have those other face watching, you know, video calls and all that stuff. They didn't have cell phones, you know. They had landlines. I mean, if not everybody had a phone even, you know. There's no computers. There's no internet. It was mail. You know, it took a month or two to get mail. They went and served the Lord. You know, Jim Elliot went. All the guys with him, Nate Saint, everybody, they gave up their lives and went there. And those 5 men were killed, you know. And you really should look into the story of all that and read their books. It was amazing. It's amazing. And eventually she went back, Elizabeth Elliot went back with her daughter, and they all received Christ, and they're all changed people, you know, in Ecuador. And so then God's like, Claire, I sent them and took care of them, you know. Yes, he died, but I took care of them. They were brave enough to go. So why can't you go to California? I'm not sending you to Ecuador or the deepest, darkest Africa, you know. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go. And I had the hardest time telling my husband, because I had to humble myself. I had to let my pride go and tell him. And we're sitting on the bed. I was in tears. He's telling me his plans. And I was like, we have no idea what God's been doing to me, And at the same time, he and I were not on the best terms because I was so mad about him wanting to go to California and on this trip. I was a horrible wife. I'm so embarrassed to say it, but I was not a nice wife. I wasn't. I was mean. We kind of like ignored each other for a while. And the lesson I learned there is just don't ever do that. If you're at odds with your husband, girls, you got to talk to him. You really got to. But God used that, and in 6 weeks, God packed up our life and paid for everything to get us to California. For the day that I said yes, and he said, okay, we're going to go. Went to our pastor, said, we're going to do it. 6 weeks went by until we moved. I packed up our whole lives. Now, yes, we were poor. We didn't have a whole lot of stuff. We're a family of 7 living in this teeny tiny 2-bedroom apartment with hardly any stuff, Basically, the stuff we had, I hoarded clothes is what I realized when we moved. I got rid of a lot of stuff, because we had one of those little tiny portable things, pods or whatever like that to send, because that's all that we could afford, that people donated the money for. The church did and stuff. We really could have used like 1.5 of those. But we got rid of a lot of stuff. We got rid of all our furniture, kept our mattresses and, that sort of thing. But when we got here, we had no furniture. But I'm going to make this a 2-parter because I've already gone too far. I'm going to make this a 2-parter. So I'm going to end right there, and I'm going to continue sharing with you what God did to get us to California and what's been going on in California since then. And I hope that this is an encouragement to you, and I hope that you're able to be blessed in learning more about me and what God's done for me, because it's all God. I didn't do it. God did it. He gets the glory for it. He gets the honor and the praise. He's an amazing guy. He really is. And if I just always wonder, like, what would happen if I never got saved? I don't even want to think about it, I don't want to think about it if my family never went to church and we all got saved. I don't even want to think about it, because you have no idea. We could all be living a sinful life. We could be Democrats. We could all be evil people. You have no idea, where you could have gone. A lot of you were saved and found salvation and repented when you were older, and you had that life of drugs and alcohol and sin and jail, or the evil life, And so you know what it could have been. But when you're 4 years old and you start going to church, you get saved so young, you have no idea what could have happened. You really don't. So I'm going to leave it there and come back for part 2 in a few days, next week, whenever I share it. All right? Thanks so much for watching. I hope this is a blessing to you. And you be a blessing.